Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to you wherever and whenever you are joining us. Welcome to our latest edition of What Caught My Eye, or WCME Sports. As always, I am your host, the coach Nick Vesci. I'm joined by the man Stephen Comlow.
Yo.
Our special guest is our reporter in the field, Mr. Pat McGrory. Yes, straight from the Tennessee game. He went straight from the stadium, hasn't stopped tailgating and partying since that win.
Try to hold that
Go
cup
Vols.
steady next time.
And we're going to welcome back the boy, Stephen Vesci, off of paternity leave for his baby daughter, Stella, who was born last week.
Can you give me a little Stella action there?
Stella!
Thank you. So congratulations to him and his wife, Kayla. We just saw them right before the show. They look like they're doing pretty well, having a good grand old time over there in the Richmond Vesci household. Now, if you are new to our show, our goal here is to try to bring you the most noteworthy, eye-catching things that we saw from the past week in the sports world, from the competition realm. If you want to think of it as kind of like your 90s, 2000 Sports Center, but in a radio format. We're offering you stats, we're offering you insight and kind of perspective around stuff that happened. And as I say each week, if you learn something new, we've met our goal. Right, that's our whole point. We want to be more educated, better sports fans, because that's why we watch the game. We watch it for the soap opera on the field, because that's what teaches us our life lessons. That's what drives us. That's what keeps us coming back for more. Before we get started, reminder to follow us on our socials. That's on Instagram, X, and Facebook at WCME_sports. Visit us on our website, WCMEsports.com. Reminder that all of our episodes, they drop each Wednesday at noon on Spotify and YouTube. So be on the lookout for those. Without further ado, let's get into it. Our top catch this week is the U.S. Tennis Open that wrapped up their fortnight of play this past weekend. You going to click Milos, Comlow?
If that was the cue, I don't know.
I thought... Thank you. It wasn't necessarily the cue. I just thought it was a nice segue, and I heard you clicking, so I was like, oh, he's gearing up for Milos. We'll get some more Milos as we go along. But a quick recap from the past weekend with the tennis world. In the men's final, we had number 1 in the world, Jannick Sinner. He defeated number 12 American Taylor Fritz in straight sets. And in the women's final, number 2 in the world, Aryna Sabalenka. She defeated another American, Jess Pegula, also in straight sets. Now, what was kind of cool about that is we technically had a shot on the women's side to have an all-American final. Emma Navarro from UVA. She lost to Sabalenka in her semifinal match. And Fritz played Francis Tiafoe, another American from the D.C. Area. By the way, they played each other in the semis, which was disappointing a little bit because they had to play each other. But that was a fantastic match. We may talk about that a little bit later. But that might have been the match of the tournament. For my money. Jannick Sinner, he defeated Jack Draper, who's an up-and-coming lefty British player. Look for him next year. He's going to be a big name that people are going to pick to win some Grand Slams and majors next year.
Is he a young guy? Is he from TCU? Or is that a different British guy?
I'm not sure. But Draper, I'm pretty sure, is pretty young. He just moved from number 25 to number 20 in the world, but he didn't drop a set the whole tournament until he faced Sinner in the semi. And that just shows how good Sinner is. So it's the second career major for Sinner. He won the Australian Open earlier this year. He is the 5th man since 2001 to win 22 or more Grand Slam matches in a single calendar year. Do you want to guess who the other 4 people are?
Repeat that. I was looking up.
To win 22 or more Grand Slam matches in a single calendar year. There's only 4 people since 2001 that have done that.
Joker.
Yep.
Federer.
Yep.
Nadal.
Yep.
Murray.
Yep, there you go. Boom. So that's the company Sinner's in. Yeah, got that week off. It's all invigorated.
Shooter.
Dad strength.
Shooter.
Which they're making another Happy Gilmore, by the way.
Saw that.
Yep. But yeah, and that's kind of the company that Sinner's in, right? We talked about Alcaraz a lot earlier this year. Sinner needs his just due, right? He won half the majors. Alcaraz won the other half of the majors. It's pretty amazing on the men's side that what those two are doing. They may be taking like the reins right now immediately. Like there's not going to be a let up. There's going to be one dominant era to another. It's possible, right?
Hostile takeover.
Yes. For Sabalenka, it was her 3rd career majors. She also won the Australian Open this year. She won the Australian Open last year as well. It is the first U.S. Open for Sabalenka. She actually lost in the finals last year to Coco Gauff, and she was in the semifinals the 2 previous years before that. So she has come so close to this major, and she kind of, in her speech at the end, kind of exuded that, like showed that, like she was relieved to get this done because she's been so close to this one for a number of years because her hard court play is the best in the world on the women's side. So she's the 5th woman since 1988 to win the Australian Open and the U.S. Open in the same year. Sinner is the 4th different man to win the Australian and U.S. Open in the same year since 1988 in that same time frame. And the reason you'll hear 88 brought up a lot is because that was the year that the Australian Open went from grass to a hard court. So it's kind of interesting that I didn't realize that didn't used to be all hard court. But what's cool is this is the first time since that year in 1988 that the same man and the same woman won both of the hard court majors. So again, Sabalenka and Sinner won Australia and the U.S. That year in 88, it was Mats Wilander and Steffi Graf, the incomparable Steffi Graf. They won both of the hard court majors the first time that there was 2 hard court majors, which is kind of cool. Another thing, we talked about Fritz and Pegula. They were in the finals as 2 Americans who both unfortunately lost. The American men still have not won a Grand Slam since Andy Roddick did at the U.S. Open in 2003. But Fritz was the first man since Roddick at Wimbledon in 2009 to reach the finals of a major. He was the first since Andy Roddick in 2006 to reach the finals of the U.S. Open. So we're seeing these kind of things get broken down, right? Once you become the first since then, it normally opens the floodgates for more, or it hopefully does. And, we've talked about the place that U.S. tennis has, and it's in a pretty good place, has always been on the women's side, right? Always been. Men's side, we saw it drop, but I think we're seeing it ratchet back up. I'm going to get into some of the rankings here in a second just to show you guys. But a couple last things. Emma Navarro, who we aforementioned before, she lost in the semis to Sabalenka, but she's one of 2 women all time to win an NCAA singles title and reach the semis of a major. Do you know who the other woman is?
Serena.
No, Serena didn't go to college.
Serena didn't go to college.
She was 17 when she won the U.S. Open, I think Serena was. One of 2.
You might need to give a hint.
A hint is that she also went to UVA.
Oh my God. You got to tell me. I don't know.
Danielle Collins, who had arguably the best year of her career. She's the only other woman to have won an NCAA singles title and go to the semifinals of a major. Like I said, the France Tiafoe match in the semis was, at least for my money, the match of the tournament. It went 5 sets. Fritz was down 2-1, and I believe the great Nick Kyrgios, the great bad boy of tennis, Nick Kyrgios, said going into the 4th set, he was like, if Tiafoe doesn't close Fritz out here, he's going to lose because you could tell he's starting to run out of gas and that he needed to give it all. And Fritz pulled out that 4th set. And the 5th set, Tiafoe was like watching Rocky 1. He was like out on his feet, basically. Like he'll still swing the racket. He's still going to be out there. He's still not going to quit, but he has no shot at winning. Right. And so that was just a fantastic match. Pegula, what?
He's like,
Yep. Yes, I agree. But for Pegula, it was the first time she ever made a semifinal or a final in a Grand Slam. She, I believe, was 0 for 6 in her career in quarterfinals, so this could be a big stepping stone for her, like a big breakout, the same way this could be for Fritz and some of these other American men. Could be for Jess Pegula, who's been in the top 10, it seems like, for a long time. And this could be the step she needs. I think she jumped up to number 3 in the rankings for it. So just, again, going to end the tennis part for my stats-wise anyway, with the rankings of the Americans coming into basically the end of the year. I know there might be some other tennis to be played, but this is kind of where we take stock in how did your year go. The majors are done. There's not going to be any really much movement at all from here till the next major, which is Australia in January. So let's take stock of where we're at. So on the men's side, Fritz jumped to number 7 in the world. Tommy Paul is number 13. Sebastian Korda is the brother of Nelly and Jess Korda. He's number 15 in the world. Tiafoe jumped to number 16. Ben Shelton's at number 17. So we have 7, 13, 15, 16, 17 in the world. And Brandon Nakashima from
UVA question mark
from UVA. He jumped up to number 40. Marco Chiarone is number 45. Alex Mickelson is number 47. So basically these are all Americans. We have 5 Americans in the top 20. So a quarter of the top 20 men are American. And we have 8 American men in the top 50. That's
Is there
pretty
enough
good.
parity in men's tennis to kind of, get some of those guys, like anything can happen in a tournament? Because I feel like it's, you turn on these tournaments and then at the end of the day, it's the same.
Yeah, it's always
they're always there at the end.
The way tennis works, because it is one-on-one and you have to beat them in, especially on the men's side, 3 sets to advance.
3 sets is a lot.
It's really hard to get an upset. Like when Alcaraz lost in the second round to Botic, the Dutchman. That's a rare. Straight sets getting demolished. It's just so hard to do. Like it's kind of like beating a team in a best of 7 series when you're the 8th seed versus the 1 seed in the NBA. Like a lot of times it's that difficult that you got to get them over and over again. Yeah, I'll get 1. I can take a set off this guy. I get 2 more. I am not taking 2 more sets off of Djokovic. How is this going to happen, right? So I think that plays into it, but it's still, there is enough parity. There is, especially with Djokovic going to age out here soon.
What's going on there, Pat?
Are we being attacked?
Flyover.
Is this Red Dawn?
Flyover in honor of
a Red Dawn reference.
Novak's
Wolverines.
Joke. Novak's joke. They hear you talking about him. In honor of the Kamala DJT debate tonight.
Oh boy, that's probably what it was. Yes, we're just do flyovers all the time. But no, to answer your question, boy, yes, I think there is space for these guys to move up. A lot of those guys from 50 to probably like 10, not that much separation. Maybe 20, 50 to 20, not that much separation. Right? Once you crack that top 20, you are stringing together wins, like repeatedly and consistently. So it just Nakashima just takes him getting hot the better part of the beginning of next year, and we could see him up there. It has that ability. It's kind of one of those where it is a zero-sum game. Someone's moving up and someone's moving down. It's not that the points can get spread around. You're taking someone else's points for the most part every time you win because it is head-to-head. On the women's side, Pegula, I said she jumped to number 3 in the world, which is amazing for her. Coco, she slipped from 3 down to 6. Emma Navarro cracked the top 10. She's number 8. Danielle Collins is number 11. Madison Keys is number 24. She's in the top 25. Caroline Dolehide, who I believe beat Collins in the first round of this U.S. Open, she's jumped number 44. Amanda Anisimova is number 46. Taylor Townsend, 47. And Peyton Stearns, who won an NCAA title at Texas, she's number 49. So that gives us 3 American women in the top 10, 5 in the top 25, and 9 in the top 50. So there's threats all over the women's side for American to win a major, right? Just we've seen Swiatek and Sabalenka kind of get rid of some of their mistakes on their best services, and that's shifted some of the balance of power from the field to them. But it's still, I think, even more wide open on the women's side.
Okay.
Yep.
Gotcha.
Any more tennis talk? Anyone else notice something?
Sounds like UVA is a tennis school.
Yeah, UVA is a athletics school, as you should know, Pat. They really only struggle in like 3 sports, and it's like women's basketball, football, and softball. Outside of that, they do extremely well and compete for national titles and like everything else.
Like 30 national championships, right, or something like that.
It's more than that.
32.
I thought it was about 34.
Is
I have to look it up. I thought it was about 34.
We'll get our stats guy on that.
That's not including individual championships. Like if you're a swimmer and you win like the NCAA title for like the 100 free, that's not included in that title. That's only team titles.
Yeah. 34.
34. Yeah, I was right. I dabble, but yeah, no, they do a great job. All of their teams are great programs. Carla Williams, the AD, is one of the best in the country. She knows what she's doing. It's just unfortunately the sport that people pay attention to the most is the football side, where UVA has struggled mightily. And really, when I was going back, we'll use this as our jumping off point to get to college football. Yeah, but when I was going back and looking at UVA's all-time records, like year by year, and we're complaining now that UVA won 3 games last year. They went through stretches where it was like a decade plus where they were lucky to win 1 game. They win 1, 0, or 2 games each year. So it's like, okay, maybe we should hold our horses. But in this new college landscape, you should be able to compete, especially if you're in a major conference with the resources and the success that the other programs at that school have. Speaking of college football and success and programs, that brings us to – and horses, I guess. That's going to take us to our college football part here if no one else has anything else to add for tennis. But our first thing – can we play Milos one more time just to kind of play us out?
Another game for Milos!
Thank you. Yes, thank you. That made my night.
Jerry is not a man like I am.
Doesn't even have a wife.
He's not even married. Yeah. Jerry.
You were going to hit these balls with that racket? But college football-wise, I think the biggest story from that, no offense to your Vols, which we'll get to here, Pat. You can enlighten us on your report from that game. But Northern Illinois beating Notre Dame. Right, I think that is the biggest story. Northern Illinois blocked 2 field goals, one at the end of the first half, one at the end of the game as time expired, which would have been a potential winning field goal. So they blocked both of those. Kanan Woodill hit a 35-yard field goal for the Huskies with 31 seconds left to give them the lead that they would not relinquish at 16-14. It's the first ever win for Northern Illinois over a top 10 team. It's the first time a team from the MAC, #MACtion, has ever beat a top 5 team. NIU entered that game as 28.5-point underdogs, and they came out of South Bend with a 2-point victory, even with the refs botching a late call in that game in favor of Notre Dame with a spot that was almost like 2 yards off that would have run more seconds off the clock. Even with that happening, the Huskies were still the better team. They pushed Notre Dame around the field like they were pushing blocking sleds. Their offensive and defensive lines whooped Notre Dame's, which is normally the strength of that team. It is always built inside out, that school. And the Huskies came in there and said, you're going to learn today. And Notre Dame learned today that you got to show up. You can't just rely on playing Texas A&M guys who are young, freak athletes who aren't great at football. You come up against someone who can play football, you're going to have to bring it. And I think that's what they learned during that game. Not gonna lie, I was laughing when I saw that game go final.
I saw the score and I was like, "Whoa, this is tight." I didn't turn. I think I was asleep at that point, but I didn't turn it on. And then I woke up and I was like, "No way, that's hilarious."
Yes, I also laughed. That was my first reaction because it's.
Because it was everyone's like, "Wow, Notre Dame is so good. They went into A&M and they won like." People that, I don't know, I guess maybe us that, watch college football that go, like Texas A&M was like a fringe top 25 team, if that. Like, why were they even ranked? Like, coming off I think they won 3 games the year before or something.
No, didn't they go 5-7, 6-7?
Maybe.
So, someone made a joke about that. Your boy, what's that comedian? Shane Gillis made that joke.
Yeah. They weren't very good the year before. They bring in a new coach, and then all of a sudden we're like, oh, okay, they're going to be great. Notre Dame, like going in there winning in a close game didn't shock me. This was definitely more shocking, but everyone was crowning Notre Dame like, oh, they have I think it was like a 90+% chance to get into the college football playoff.
Is that out? Are they out of the playoff now?
Technically, no. If they theoretically run the table, if they theoretically run the table, right? They finish 11-1. They will have had to beat a bad Florida State team. They would have had to beat USC. The rest of their schedule, they have to beat Georgia Tech, who's now not looking as good. The rest of their schedule's soft as hell.
Right.
But still, if they run the table and go 11-1, are they going to be outside the top 11? It's possible, but probably not.
It's definitely possible
imagine because there is if they're 11-1, you got to think there's other teams that are probably 11-1 who A, their schedule is probably viewed as a little more difficult, and B, it was probably more of a quality loss. We heard that phrase a lot last year. You cannot chalk this up as a quality loss.
No,
they got caught sleeping at the wheel.
No,
here's what they did. Here's what they're going to do. Yes,
NIU, the AP poll ranked NIU, and I saw someone comment on it, and the person was exactly 100% correct. They're like, anything to save Notre Dame's reputation. You've ranked NIU for no reason other than they beat Notre Dame.
Just so Notre Dame can say, well, we haven't lost to an unranked team.
Exactly.
Right, the team we lost to is ranked. Because if you look at the other polls, the coaches and there's another media poll, neither of them had NIU even close to there, but the AP poll did. Right, and the one that counts that we show the number at until they have the CFP rankings. So no, Stevie is absolutely right. That was my first thought when I saw that was NIU didn't show me anything that they should be ranked. What I saw was Notre Dame, how bad they are, and yeah, NIU's got a great line, but they're still from the MAC. That's not in the elite conference. They haven't really proven that much in past years.
Fuse to the pyrotechnics.
Yep.
Badass.
No,
that's a crazy storyline coming from that.
No, I guarantee that was again my first thought is, this is to make it not look as bad that Notre Dame lost this game, because when NIU goes and lays an egg against whoever the hell they're playing this week, they're not going to be ranked. They're for them to stay ranked, they're going to have to go undefeated. If they go undefeated, they'll still be ranked 22, right at the most. So, and you could still say that's not that good of a loss still, right? So. No, I think that was more telling about Notre Dame, the issues that they have. It seems like they might be 0 for 2 in their grad transfer QBs from the ACC because Sam Hartman wasn't very good last year. Riley Leonard looks like a shell of himself from his Duke times.
Well, there was I think before game interview with Marcus Freeman, and he was talking about Riley Leonard, don't play outside of the system, don't play do what the coaches tell you to do, play within the system, we'll be fine. All that stuff. What makes Riley Leonard really, really good is his improvising and his running ability and everything he does that's outside of a system. Now you're taking that away from him. Get a text there, Pat.
He's our reporter in the field. He's got to have his phone on. Things are happening.
I'll mute that.
Right? He's our Adam Schefter. Right? We got to have him out there. Brian Fantana, he needs to be on top of stuff.
Yeah, making deals.
Brian Fantana.
But, Notre Dame only takes grad transfers.
Because of academics?
It's just a Notre Dame policy. I'm sure part of it is an academic thing. I think actually part of it is that Notre Dame doesn't accept credits from any other school. So if you were to transfer there as a sophomore.
Such an elitist thing.
Yeah. So if you were to spend 2 years at TCU and then try to transfer to Notre Dame, they would honor maybe half of your credits, if not any of them. So you'd have to start from scratch. So I think that's part of it is they just don't, that's their policy though, is they just don't do that for anyone. So, football wise, they only take grad transfers because you're coming in as, I just got accepted to whatever grad program, right? So there's no transfer or credits to transfer. But yeah, I mean that I think I've brought this up before to you guys, but this whole idea that everyone can be Russell Wilson and transfer 1 year and make an impact is a fallacy. There are way more quarterbacks that fail in their 1 year transfers than there are that succeed.
Correct.
And it's because it's hard, that it's difficult. It's not these are pros. These are still kids. You're still going to brand new systems with so much else that's going on here. And learning these things in a short amount of time because you don't have the time. You're still having to take classes, even if you're taking underwater basket weaving. It's still taking up time that you could be doing what a pro would be doing, which is studying the playbook and taking reps and video and all those things. So it's I think we're starting to
there's been a few that there's been the Caleb Williams, the Jalen Hurts, the Bakers. Guys like that who have.
But were they was it their first year that they were good?
Caleb
Williams was his first
Jalen
year.
Hurts was.
Was it though?
Not. Yeah.
Yeah, Hurts. Are you kidding me?
Hurts went from national champion at Bama to then.
Yeah, but his best year at Oklahoma, didn't he play more than 1 year at Oklahoma? His best year would have been his second year, so it wasn't his first year that was his best year.
Yeah, I agree with what you're saying, but there's a handful. I'm just saying that's a count.
Yeah, and then that's
is those guys. But like Cam Ward this year might be the one guy that does it.
But I mean,
but I still don't believe in Miami. So
yeah, I mean, there's a slew of other ACC examples. Like our boy Brennan Armstrong struggled mightily at NC State. Devin Leary struggled when he went from NC State to Kentucky.
Watching Grayson McCall right now.
Grayson McCall. Yeah, I was just gonna say.
Yeah, and so
tough.
It
Hendon
doesn't
Hooker, though.
work.
What about Tennessee? Hendon Hooker, he had a great year.
But was
Yeah,
that his
Hendon
first
Hooker
year at
too.
Tennessee, though?
Was that his first year at Tennessee, Pat?
That was his second year because he
Was it?
sat behind Joe Milton his first year. Joe Milton took over. He was the guy, but he could not throw accurate to save his life. And then, once he got hurt, that's when Hendon took over.
Yeah, I mean, that
But,
kind of
yeah.
like proves my point, though, right? You got to have a year or two under your belt. So, the Boise State decision not to start, I forget his name. I think it was Malachi Nelson,
Yep.
I believe is his name. The big-time transfer from USC, for him not to start kind of plays into that. Like, it's almost like they're setting him up for success next year and the year after, as opposed to just throw him into the fire, because it just doesn't work that way when you're dealing with kids. But speaking of Tennessee, that's a good segue to the next game. A couple of stompings that happened this weekend involving some top teams. Pat, your Tennessee Vols, which you were there for, stomped NC State in Charlotte, 51-10. Dylan Sampson had 132 yards rushing and 2 touchdowns. And Nico Iamilava had 2 touchdowns.
The Persian Prince.
Pat, what can you tell us?
Prince.
What can you tell us from that game? What did you take away? What did you see? What do you actually remember from that game?
That's not a whole hell of a lot, but what I do remember, I mean, the defense kind of stood out to me in my eye. I don't think that Nico played his best game. I don't even think he played a great game, to be honest. I think our defense, I mean, we held them to what? I think like 30 rushing yards the entire game. They couldn't do anything. And then when they were driving, got a pick six that basically turned the entire tide of the game. So what I took away, defense is a force to be reckoned with. I think our offensive and defensive line are stout, which is exciting because we still run the hurry up offense, so we still got that going for us. But adding a little flavor and a nice D, boys, I'm excited.
Yeah, what do you think are now realistic expectations for the Volunteers?
I said before the season we were going to go 11-1, and I still think that. I think Bama and Georgia are obviously the 2 games that we are up in the air because our other SEC schedule. I mean, we go to Oklahoma in 2 weeks, which that's going to be a fantastic game. That already got announced as a night game, so that's going to be electric. But we make it through that, then we're rolling through. I mean, Arkansas is, they're picking up the pieces. Kentucky's, they're not really much this year. Mizzou's not on the schedule. Yeah, I mean, I think
Arkansas going to Fayetteville, that's a little dicey. That's one of those trap games, right? Because that's
it's a trap game. Yeah.
That's between Oklahoma and Florida, and then Bama's right after.
Yeah.
What they did against Oklahoma State was impressive to me. Oklahoma State always does have those just crap games in the beginning that you're like, what the hell are they doing?
Yep.
But Arkansas, I know Saban's been talking about them being much improved this year.
Did you see Ollie Gordon got diagnosed with chlamydia before that game too?
Did he really? Is that real?
Dude, and they outed him.
Sounds like an Onion article.
Dude, it was like there has to be some sort of HIPAA.
Where's our stats guy?
Something, because they the tweet went out about him being out, and it was out due to illness in parentheses
chlamydia.
But he played in that game.
He did play in the game, so I don't know.
That's like it's like when Frank Reynolds and Charlie, they pretend that Frank has AIDS at the water park. That's why I won't tackle him. AIDS. I got AIDS. And go to the front of the line. Yep. That was their strategy there. Is maybe they won't want to tackle him because he has chlamydia. But Pat, what did you think of the whole setup? Because there was a Duke's Mayo kickoff classic. So did it have that bowl game feel, or did it have more of a regular season?
No, it had more of a regular season feel. I'll tell you, because I mean, I told you guys this before the show, but I mean, it was Tennessee fans traveled. I mean, this was 75-25% Tennessee fans, and even walking around Charlotte prior to the game, I mean, the amount of orange was overwhelming. Because I thought that at least there would be, I mean, 2 hours from Raleigh. I thought, you'd at least get some NC State representation, but I mean, especially them being top 25 and I was high on Coastal Carolina for the past 3 years because they've won me a lot of money, but Grayson, had some great preseason expectations. I thought they would have been a little bit higher on this team, but
I think, the expectations for NC State were high. Like,
yeah,
I still am.
And that dude, Casey Concepcion,
Concepcion is awesome.
Yes.
I think he's Tavon Austin.
He's nice. He's really nice. He's a speedster. I mean, he's probably their only good weapon that they have. But yeah, I mean, I think he at least had a decent game.
He reminds me of Tavon Austin. So
Yeah,
much. I don't know if
he's
that,
quick.
Stood out to you at all, but to the way he's used his body type, everything they hand him the ball in the backfield too.
Yeah,
He is their entire offense.
Well, they really couldn't get much going. Like I said, I will go back to it, but that Tennessee defensive front was, I mean, it didn't even look like it looked like Pop Warner versus Mighty Mites, like the pure size of these guys.
Who's on that defense that besides Pierce that we should know?
I mean, Will Brooks was the linebacker. He got the pick 6. He's spectacular. But hold on, who's their D-back? Would you say James Pierce Jr.?
Yeah, the D end.
Yeah, he's a boss. Yeah, watch out for him. He's going to make some noise this year.
He's going to be like a top 10 pick.
Yeah.
Other than that, any other NFL guys you thought stood out to you on that field? Because that's what's going to take to win a championship is you need NFL guys.
Our offensive line, Javonte Spraggins, he's a boss. He was the guy. I don't know if you guys saw this play, but we had a 3rd and 14, and Nico didn't have anybody to throw to, so he took it himself, and he scrambled a little bit, got 2 or 3 yards, got these a very minor hit out of bounds. It wasn't anything personal, anything like that. Javonte Spraggins took it personal. He came over and laid the freaking body to about half their team.
I think I saw that.
Yes. So that was
watching
fun.
Watching Andre the Giant go into a crowd of people just. It's like
Doug
the Ogre.
Doug the Thug Glatt coming through.
Yes.
There you go.
Rolling bodies.
Yes.
Yeah, so offensive line. I think so. Other than that, we got some young wide receivers. Squirrel White I think he's a sophomore. Brew McCoy was the transfer from USC, but I think he might be a senior actually. So he's a guy to watch out for. But we got some speedsters. So, I mean, who knows?
You're going to go to
run the football surprisingly well. I think last year Tennessee was a top 10 rushing team in the nation for Power 4 teams. So that's something that we usually dismiss with Tennessee. We're oh man, the high powered, high flying offense. They go so fast, they do all this stuff. They throw the ball everywhere. They run the football extremely well.
Yes, they do. Yeah, Dylan Sampson looked really nice that game. But that was the thing that you said. You touched on that, Steve. Last year, we had a trio of phenomenal running backs. 2 of them are in the NFL right now. This year, we've got Dylan Sampson, and that's pretty much our backfield. So, yeah, the fact that they're able to run well with just one guy they're dishing the ball to is, that's surprising.
Yeah, I think you're right. The one thing, like you said, boy, you discount because they go fast. You say, because you go fast, you have to throw a lot. Well, what going fast also does is it tires the defense out, especially that D line that's huffing and puffing, and that should, if you're in better shape, which I would think Heupel has trained their guys. This is the way they've been playing for years. They're in better shape than you. They can push you around. We can run the ball, and running the ball up tempo oftentimes yields better results because the defense isn't able to set up a lot of run scheme. They a lot of times have to stay in kind of a more base formation, and that's easier to get your blocking assignments. And if, again, they're tired and you're not, and everyone knows who they're going to block, there's no guessing, that's a whole hell of a lot easier to blow something up and to get some yards. off of that. Pat, you gonna go to any other Tennessee games this year?
Yeah, I've got Bama on the radar.
There
That's
we go.
got some serious legs. Tickets
That's
are
it.
That game.
tickets
That
are
game
roughly
years ago.
$450. But God, I don't know. I feel obligated. Yeah, because 2 years ago, Steve mentioned it. That was when I went down. We took them down for the first time in 15 years. I feel like I owe it to the school. I owe it to the state.
Go support the team.
Make my presence
Yeah,
known.
you're gonna paint your face or your chest, maybe like the end zone, the checkered. Just checker yourself.
Maybe I'll shave my chest hair into a power tee.
Yes. Yes. So Pat, our reporter in the field, he has some great pictures we're going to share from that game on our social medias. Again, that's at WCME_sports on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook. So be on the lookout for those. He hopefully, if he gets this Bama game, he'll also have some more pictures and videos to share for us from that experience. We love that you are our reporter in the field because, again, if you guys remember from the U.S. Open, the Golf Open, Pat was also a reporter there who helped share that stuff with us. So he is our resident Brian Fantana. So we do appreciate that.
Did you go to a piano bar afterwards requesting Rocky Top about 12 times?
No, I didn't. No, by the time we got out of the game, that was it was 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, and yeah, your boy was a little tapped at that point.
Getting old, son. Getting old.
I know. I told you guys, I'm losing the edge a little bit.
So
But-
from one beat down to another, that'll take us to the great state of Michigan. I know our Guatemalan viewership was not happy with this result, but the Texas Longhorns went up to the Big House and thrashed the defending champion Wolverines 31-12. That game felt like it was over before it started. Pretty impressive. Quinn Ewers had 3 touchdowns. I just saw something that at the early Heisman favorite is Quinn Ewers, or the betting favorite at least right now, which is interesting. But thought that was more telling about Texas than it was about Michigan, because Michigan was at least for me, was always going to be a question mark. A new coach, guys leaving. It's hard to relive up to those expectations, especially when you have a different leader in charge. Doesn't matter how good of a coach Sharon Moore is, because he is a very good coach. That's just hard. And it was kind of set up for something like this, but very impressed with Texas going in there and blowing the doors off of Michigan.
Super impressed with Texas offensive line against those big monsters on Michigan's defense, Graham and Grant, right?
Yeah.
Those guys are absolutely. They were game wreckers for every single game in that playoff, and leading up to it in the Ohio State game and the 2 playoff games. Like, to Texas handle them, no problem. And the speed on the outside, God, Texas can fly.
Yeah, Texas, I believe they jumped up to number 2 in the poll, which again,
Wow.
we may need to question that, because that poll also had Northern Illinois at 25. Right. So, let's hold our horses here for a second. But still, they jumped up to number 2 in that poll. So that very impressive there. Like you said, boy, I think they're deserving of that ranking, to be honest.
Absolutely. Yeah,
based off of what the other teams behind them have done.
Yeah, going into the Big House too.
Yeah, it's hard to say anyone else has had a better win this year.
It's amazing, by the way. It's amazing watching, like, when you flip through. There's a million college football games on. You start flipping through each game, like, I can't wait to watch this one, whatever. When you go to watch a quarterback like Ewers and just how good he is decision making wise and accuracy wise, oh my gosh, like the difference between him and
Riley Leonard.
Yeah, 98% of the quarterbacks in the country. It's not like he's doing anything that was anything crazy. He's just making simple reads, simple passes, getting it to his playmakers, and they go do the rest. And it's like, getting 6 yards, throwing a 20-yard out to get 6 yards is extremely important. To stay above the chains, to stay going, to keep everything moving. And for some reason, the amount of quarterbacks that just can't do that.
Yeah. Well, it's because playing quarterback is hard.
It is
right?
hard.
Especially with the offenses that they have nowadays. It's not like they're easy, simple plays that you've been running forever, which is what it kind of used to be. They've gone so in depth with a lot of these things that it's caused you almost to have like the brain scramblies. And then on top of that is the defensive schemes have gotten more complex as a result, because they had to keep up. And the skill on defense, the speed all of that has gotten better. Like it used to be, it felt like the defenses didn't always have the better athletes than the offense, but you watch and you almost say every team, the better athletes are on the defensive side of the ball. And that I think has something to do with it. You got to keep up with that speed, and some people can't process the information quick enough, right? Moving on, we're going to stay in the Midwest. We're going to go a little west, or a lot west, actually, to the great state of Iowa. And Kyle Conradi hit a 54-yard field goal with 6 seconds left as Iowa State stunned Iowa at Kinnick Stadium in Iowa City, 20-19, to claim the Cyhawk Trophy. What does Cyhawk stand for, boy?
Cyclone Hawkeye.
Thank you.
I mean,
If you well, hey, some people might not know that. Don't assume. You know what happens when you assume. Some more comeback stuff. I love a good comeback. We mentioned this game before, but the Oklahoma State-Arkansas game, the Pokes were down 21-7 at half. They came back and took the lead against the Razorbacks, but Arkansas's kicker Kyle Ramsey hit a 45-yard field goal as time expired to force overtime. The aforementioned, hopefully clean Ollie Gordon II scored the game-winning touchdown in double overtime for an Oklahoma State 39-31 victory. That was a pretty wild game. Again, sticking with the comeback theme, down 30-17 entering the fourth quarter. UVA, the University of Virginia, they came back and beat Wake Forest in Winston-Salem 31-30. Quarterback Anthony Calandra went 33 of 43 with 357 yards and 3 touchdowns, and wide receiver Malachi Fields, who I believe is now the leading receiver in the ACC, he had 11 catches for $148, but it included a very crucial clutch fourth down conversion on that game-winning drive that they had to have. It's the largest comeback for UVA since 2021 when they beat Louisville. So pretty good stuff there. They get a night home game on Saturday against Maryland.
Battle for the Potomac.
Go Terps.
Yeah. Crab cakes and football. That's what Maryland does.
I tell you what, man, watching Calandra is fun.
He's really good.
He improved a lot from last year. I mean, at least so far, decision making wise, and like just being more mature. As we mature, the relationship matures with us.
Thank you, Erickson.
I don't know. They may throw the ball 50 times a game though because they can't run it.
No, they can't.
He's fun. He gives you a chance. He's an it factor because he brings up the level of play from everyone on the field. I mean, when was the last time you saw UVA make a defensive play?
Are you talking about that fumble?
Yeah.
Yeah. I was in shock, in awe of that. You're right. I don't think I've ever seen a UVA defender. You got to probably go back to the Chris Long era.
Probably.
To see someone make a play like that strip fumble at the end of the game, and the recovery too.
Yeah, the hustle on the recovery was incredible.
Yes, those are things that you just didn't see. Like that play, if there's anything to take away from that game, any one play would be that play. That play was different from what you were used to ever seeing from a UVA team. Ever again, in the last 15, almost 20 years, you just never saw people capable with the effort and the headiness to make that play, especially in that situation.
Right now they have 2/3 of their wins from last year.
Yes, well, that's what happens when you only win 3 games.
Right.
Standard.
The crazy thing is, it will be at least another 2 weeks, regardless of outcome, before Virginia Tech and Florida State can have a better record than UVA. just to put that in perspective of how absurd that is. Some more comebacks. Pitt, they trailed 27-6 in the third quarter against Cincinnati, but they came back to win 28-27, so scoring 22 unanswered points. They won on the leg. A lot of good kicks, by the way, this weekend. On the leg of Ben Sauls, he had a 35-yard field goal with 17 seconds left to put them up. Again, sticking with the kicking game, Atticus Sappington from Oregon. He kicked the game-winning.
Name.
I know, right? Atticus
fun.
Sappington kicked the game-winning 25-yard field goal as time expired as Oregon survived Boise State 37-34 in Eugene. You know, like you said, you've said this, boy. Oregon has dropped in the ranking so much, especially for a team that has not lost. But I get it because watching them, they have not looked good, in my opinion, really in anything. But Boise State is a quality team. We said this last week after they went into Georgia Southern and beat them Ashton Gianti is the real deal. He might be the best running back in the country. If it's not him, it's probably Ollie Gordon. But I think right now more people are going to lean toward Gianti because he's legit. He could probably put up numbers against anyone on any day. So that is a quality win. Now, you would have liked to see Oregon handle some business more because if you are a top 5 team, you're supposed to, regardless of who you're playing, unless it's another top 5 team, you're supposed to kill them. But again, this is still a very good Boise State team. To get a win has to be a positive there for the Ducks.
I think let that offense gel with some of with Gabriel coming in as a transfer. You survived and advanced, right? I think Oregon's just going to get better. They're gonna put it together. Dan Lannion's too good of a coach, and they have too much skill.
I think their biggest issue is that we've talked about this before. They're joining a new conference. You don't just waltz into a new conference, right? And you're playing these teams that you're not used to playing, except for in a bowl game. And that bowl game is normally the Rose Bowl, right? Which is a whole different than, hey, let's go, into Columbus and play Ohio State on a random October weekend. It's different.
Columbus goes to Eugene, or not Columbus. Ohio State goes.
Okay, I was just using them as an example. Where do they go to anywhere tough in the Big Ten on the road? They go like a Wisconsin or a Michigan or
They go at Wisconsin and at Michigan, but yeah. So we'll see what happens there. But we just saw Texas beat the hell out of Michigan. You'd have to think Michigan would improve by that point.
And again, it's still you are going on the road. It's hard to win on the road. That's part of why that Texas win is so expensive.
At Purdue, doesn't that seem like the game Purdue wins?
Purdue
always wins one game that they have zero business winning.
Yeah, it does seem like that would be the game. It's either that or this weekend because Notre Dame plays one of their true road games. They're only playing 2 true road games this year. This is their second.
Notre Dame already lost. So if Notre Dame hadn't lost, I would have said this would be the Purdue one. But now that Notre Dame lost, I think Purdue beats Oregon because it just has that Purdue feel of like, oh, they just put it together and they're the best team in the country for one night.
Yeah. Who is Purdue or Notre Dame's other big road game?
A&M, the first game.
First game.
So all the other games on their schedule that say at or away are at technically neutral sites.
Oh, really?
So they only played 2 true road games this year. Like I think it's at Georgia Tech, but it's in Atlanta at the Superdome, so it's not at like Georgia Tech Stadium. There's other.
They go at USC.
Yeah, that's in the Coliseum. So I guess that would be a true one. But all those other ones that are in between.
Georgia Tech, Navy.
Navy's not at the Naval Academy. It's I think. I was probably in Philadelphia. Army's at Yankee Stadium, right? So they're going to all these places that are going to be overwhelmingly pro Notre Dame. You're not playing a true road game. Yeah, you have to travel, but you're not going into someone else's environment. That is a massive difference, right? I'll take Ole Miss. I'll take Ole Miss at the Cotton Bowl before I take Ole Miss down there in Mississippi. Like that doesn't matter. Like it's that makes a big difference. Going back to the ACC, Syracuse, the orange, not the orange men or orange women, the orange, just the color. They beat Georgia Tech 31-28 behind Kyle McCord's 381 yards and 4 touchdowns. He's looked really good since he's gotten there at Syracuse. That could be a team that could kind of screw up the ACC. Yes. So if someone starts to pull away and they get a Syracuse, they take them down. Louisville, all of a sudden Louisville's, 9-0. Well, here comes Syracuse going to stomp them, and Syracuse would wind up going with 4 losses and winning the ACC, and now, this is a mess. The ACC's got one team.
Syracuse and Boston College are those teams, right? That they're just going to completely wreck the ACC.
Yeah, no, I could 100% see that. More ACC stuff. Not that there's any ACC bias on this show, but really the other games, a lot of the other conferences haven't played anyone kind of on purpose. But Duke beat Northwestern 26-20 in double overtime. They improved to 2-0 in Manny Diaz's first year as Duke coach. Manny Diaz, former guy in charge down there in Miami. And anything else? I think that's all I got college-wise. So you people have anything?
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead, boy. Go ahead, boy.
All right. Well, just looking forward to this Friday, Kansas State versus Arizona.
Best game of the weekend.
It is the best game of the weekend. That is going to be the first true test for like this wide open Big 12 that is Arizona for real. The new coach, they throw the ball around. I mean, probably every play they're pretty much throwing the ball. Fifita is really, really good, and I think who's the
McMillan.
receiver, McMillan. Is that
Yep.
what his name
Tatora
is?
McMillan.
Yeah, he's unbelievable. So this is the first true test for each team. Kansas State, Avery Johnson needs to play a lot better.
Avery Johnson.
Yeah, I know, Doug. I mentioned that when I was doing the Big 12 preview, and Doug was like, not to be confused with Avery Johnson, the Dallas Mav. So
No, not to be confused.
yeah, so I think it's just it's the first big true test for those teams to see, are these teams for real? I think Kansas State's ranked like 14th right now, and Arizona's ranked 20th.
Sounds right.
So I neither team has looked great to start this year. Kansas State honestly probably should have lost against Tulane. So I think it's fun to see like where these teams are at and see who's going to step up in the Big 12. I think that's kind of where I'm looking. And also one more game to look forward to, the Backyard Brawl.
Yes.
Have to shamelessly plug it. It's one of the best rivalry games in the sport. Eat shit pit. Just gonna throw that one out there.
Thank
If
you.
you ever hear Sweet Caroline playing, that bump bump bump, just throw in a nice eat shit pit if you want to. But it's gonna be like 75% West Virginia fans in Pittsburgh.
That's not the only rivalry game this weekend. There are actually plenty. Washington State, the Apple Cup is this weekend. Oregon State, the Civil War. Colorado State, and then you have Utah State, which that one's not as big, but that one still has some roots going back because those teams, share that state, so they don't like each other. But there's some good stuff, even if we don't have the ranked matchups. Kamala, Pat, anything before we move on to some professional foosball?
Yeah, real quick. It's in the realm of college football. It's not about any like specific game or anything. But did you guys see the documentary that came out on Netflix about the Michigan sign stealing?
I didn't watch it. I saw it.
Cotton Stallions. I haven't watched it yet, no, but I've heard it's good.
It's a chance to really sing the praise of that whole like Untold like series. Everything they do is good.
Yes.
This documentary just hooked me right from Jump Street. It was so good, and the fact that they get Connor Stallions in there, obviously they get his family, like they do their due diligence, and they pumped this thing out super quick. Right? Like it feels like headlines just stopped rolling about, Harbaugh being suspended and everything like just a couple weeks ago, and this documentary is top tier. Oh my gosh, this documentary.
He was in the news because I think he became like the interim head coach at some high school.
Because the head coach had a minor stroke.
Yeah.
And then he took over as like the high school head coach or whatever.
Yeah. All right, moving on to the NFL. Get some quick hits here because this was the start of the NFL season, the first full week of action that we saw. To start the year, the defending champion, or two-time defending champion, Kansas City Chiefs, they beat the Ravens 27-20 at not Arrowhead anymore, whatever they renamed the stadium sponsor-wise, but in Kansas City. Isaiah Likely's potential game-tying touchdown as time expired was overturned correctly. How someone sit there and complain it's not a touchdown? You want to complain that we have instant replay and to overturn it, but then you're also the same people complaining that they should have overturned some other call. Why don't they replay that, right? It's a double-edged sword. You can't have one without the other. If you're going to have replay, it's going to exist for this reason, so get over yourself. It's not a touchdown.
Yeah, it's not.
Who was saying that it was a touchdown?
The Ravens were like, oh, it looked like a touchdown to me. Lamar was like, oh, it sure seemed like a touchdown.
He literally landed on
the line. And it's not like
smaller shoes.
Yes. It's not like it's obstructed either. Like the view is clear. It's clear cut. I don't get why anyone. And maybe it's just because that's the culture of the NFL is that we're going to make a story out of nothing, right? Saquon scored 3 touchdowns in his Eagles debut as they beat the Packers 34-29 in Brazil. As far as I know, no one was stabbed or robbed there in Sao Paulo, so that's good. moving on to some Sunday action. After relinquishing a 17-3 third quarter lead, the Detroit Lions beat the Rams in the Matthew Stafford Jared Goff Bowl, 26-20 in overtime, thanks to David Montgomery's 1-yard touchdown plunge for the Lions. That is going to make our Guatemalan viewers a little happier, ease the pain of that Michigan debacle. Dub Bears, AJ's Bears. They came back from a 17-0 deficit to beat the Titans 24-17, thanks in large part to a fourth quarter interception return for a touchdown by Tyreek Stevenson. It's kind of amazing. The Titans literally just handed them the game because it's not like there was an interception return for a touchdown. Wasn't there like a block punt return for a touchdown?
Yes. They always give it away. That's just the Titans culture. That's just...
Dude, and their coach is fuming. Have you seen what this guy's been saying to the media?
Who the hell is even their coach?
Yeah, who is their coach?
Give me a sec. I'll effort. But he, in an interview, said that, we would have won this game if we had just punted on 1st and 10 every single time.
Like, what's his face from...
Brian Callahan. Brian Callahan is his name. But yeah,
from Waterboy. Coach
where they just take a knee. They're taking the Waterboy out of the game. Smart move.
This was
Red. What is his name? Red
ESPN
Callahan
today.
What is his...
Red Bo U.
Red Bo U. Coach Bo U.
Yeah.
Brian Callahan is the coach of the Titans, and that was the quote that is just being passed around every media outlet. Is we would have won had we punted on 1st and 10 every time.
It's the quote of the week because Caleb Williams didn't even have 100 yards passing. You lost a game. You gave up over 20 points to a team that couldn't even pass for over 100 yards. That is kind of one of the wild, maybe the most wild game of the weekend was that game. Some more comebacks for you. Down 17-7 in the second half. The Dolphins came back and beat the Jaguars in the Florida Bowl, 20-17. Jason Sanders, who apparently didn't have Dan Marino holding for him because he kicked a 52-yard field goal as time expired as the Fish beat the Jags 2017 again. I believe that game was in Miami. In Gerard Mayo, your boy Gerard Mayo's coaching debut, the Pats beat the Bengals 16-10. Nice defensive showing there. Pretty impressive.
A lot of people lost Survivor Pool.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I'm sure.
Joe Shiesty with the bleached blonde hair. Take your medicine, boy. Ooh, that was good. That felt so good.
I think that's the perfect example of needing game reps. Jamar Chase, you want to hold out, you can't just walk off the couch and play. Like, your team can't have you just walk off the couch and play. It doesn't work that way. It's not a video game. But guys make decisions for whatever reasons. I mean, they're grown-ass men. You can do what you want. But decisions have consequences. And you saw the consequence.
We saw that a little last night, too, with Ayuk. How many times there was a couple times where Purdy was putting the ball in perfect places, and Ayuk just couldn't get there.
Oh, yeah.
You know, like people want to hold these wide receivers. They want to hold out or hold in, whatever we want to call it. Regardless, you're not practicing with the team. You're not getting your reps in. You're not shaking the offseason rust off, and it's going to cost you.
Yeah, I mean that's.
Combo, did you listen to Peyton last night?
No, I didn't have the Manning cast on. What was he talking about?
He literally said that
Slid him up.
same thing. He destroyed IU.
He was so mad.
What happens when you miss training camp? You drop passes. This is like you can't have that. This is why you have to be a training camp. Yeah. Peyton,
he was like, this is like 04 all over again when Edgerrin held out for the Colts. He was still mad about it 20 years later.
Can I tangent for a second about like?
Do we have time?
And we got a little time. We got a little time. It blows my mind to see all the Sure, inflation's hard right now, guys. The economy's in the shitter, but there is no reason to be holding out when you have 2 years left on your deal, or you're already making all this gosh darn money. It makes no sense to me, and the only thing I can ever think about when I see that players are holding out for more money is that scene in Mr. Deeds.
Yes.
Well, if you played worse, could we pay you less? Shit, no. I mean, no. like
You
what are
you
we
own the Jets
doing?
now,
Like,
Deeds.
yeah, what are we doing out here?
So
Like,
the biggest
greed
thing,
is unreal.
the biggest thing that they would say in favor of it is that in the NFL, contracts are not guaranteed. Whereas I can sign that deal and be Anthony Rendon for the Angels and play no games and get all that money. It doesn't matter. But if I don't have that deal as an NFL player and I get hurt, there's nothing. That contract ends, they cut me, I'm done, and I lose out on $100 million versus
Should have gone to
having
play baseball then.
$10 million, right? Yeah, I mean, look, it's kind of like what we were saying about the 1-year transfer quarterbacks. Holding out historically does not yield results, right? The laundry list of people that succeed holding out is tiny, minuscule, maybe isn't even existent. The only reason you do that is you force a team's hand because there's only a finite number of players in that player pool for you to choose from, and they'll take, Brandon Ayuk dropping passes over someone else out there because it's easier to justify that as a general manager if something goes wrong versus we let Brandon Ayuk go and we're playing this 5th-round rookie, right, who's dropping passes. It's easier. It's like we were talking about with the potential of, we'll draft guys based off potential because it's just easier to justify it. You back them into that corner. But that's the biggest reason I am hesitant to pick the 49ers to win a Super Bowl or get theirs because not only did Ayuk hold out, but Trent Williams held out as well. And that's going to take them time.
Trent Williams came back was because Pearsall got shot.
Why does that matter?
Did you see that?
No, I didn't see that.
He literally said after he got shot, he was like, "Oh, it puts it into perspective. Like I'm not holding out anymore."
Yeah, I mean it's he just doesn't. It doesn't work out as much. It's difficult. Like as Peyton said last night, there and Eli, there's no substitute for game reps. Practice reps do not equate to game reps. It does not matter what situation you put in practice, what you do. It is just different. And so holding out hurts your team.
Speaking of the Manning cast, though, I want to get a little plug in there for. I was watching that with Belichick in the first half. Oh my God, what incredible football! Now, if you want to learn the game of football, just turn on the Manning cast, and if they have Belichick on, I mean, pay attention.
Dude, Belichick making the rounds this year, top tier content.
Well, I love it. I love it when they have like a guy like Belichick on instead of like they had Adam Sandler on afterwards, and sometimes they rotate through celebrities, but they're not analyzing the game. They're trying to interview while watching the game.
And that's hard.
It's hard to do, and it's just not as good. When Peyton, Eli, and Belichick are just strictly looking at what's going on in the game, previewing, like, looking at the matchups, looking at everything, and they're like, oh, like, look at this replay, and Belichick's just ripping through, like, the analysis of it. It's
like that, too.
I mean,
like clockwork, like a bodily function.
Immediately he just goes, like, they asked, like, what are you looking at? He's like, double Wilson. He's like, double Wilson. And then Wilson catches, like, 3 third downs in a row. He goes, what the hell are we doing? He's like, you got to double him.
And he sees it immediately, and it takes someone else, like, 5 minutes to get it. It's like, yeah.
We're on to Cincinnati.
Yep. Yeah, okay.
It's that John Madden quote where he's like, you think you know a lot about football until I interviewed Bill Belichick. Then I realized I knew nothing.
Well, that game, to just recap that game, the 49ers did beat the Jets. Aaron Rodgers did not get hurt, allegedly. They beat the Jets 32-19. Jordan Mason filling in for the injured Christian McCaffrey had 147 yards and a touchdown. Pretty impressive there.
That screwed so many people.
Yes, I'm sure. Oh, that's the first thing I thought of. I just laughed.
Including me. I was down 9 points, and I was like, okay, they've said all week, no problem. Christian McCaffrey, there's no issue with him.
This is why you always pick up the handcuff. You should have had Jordan Mason on your team. You cleared a roster spot and just flipped him in there.
I had another running back I could have played that would have gotten me.
It's not the same though because
but they announce it at 7 p.m. on Monday when all the games are done.
That's why you always have the handcuff.
I picked up Juszczyk, and if he had
same. I did the same.
2 more yards. If you got 2 more yards for that touchdown, I would have won.
Yes.
Did either of you have Amon-Ra St. Brown?
No.
Ooh.
I know.
Rough week for St.
Thought
Brown.
he had a tough showing.
Did he
rough week for St.
put
Brown
up a
owners.
Bagel?
I think so. Depending on what kind of league it is, but yeah. It was not a good outing for those owners.
Lastly, NFL-wise, the Cowboys, they beat the Browns 33-17. thanks in large part to Brandon Aubrey's 4 field goals, all of which were from 40 yards or more, and Cavante Turpin's 60-yard punt return for a touchdown. Another game where, you look at that score, they dropped 33 points, but their offense didn't really do that much, right? That large part to those couple big plays. NFL-wise, anything else before we move on to some baseball?
I got one more. You mentioned Aubrey with 4 field goals. I'll raise you one with Chris Boswell with 6.
The
Wizard of Oz.
And 3 of which were 50+.
Yes.
And also, by the way, the punter got hurt in that game, and actually at a crucial point in the 4th quarter, Chris Boswell had to be the punter.
For the Stillers, right?
For the Steelers, yeah. So they won 18-10 on 6 Chris Boswell field goals and a Chris Boswell punt. So I thought that was Chris Boswell was incredible.
Pat McAfee was bricked up talking about that.
Oh, sure. That was the most Steelers win.
Oh my god, that dude was hard.
Yeah. Zach Frazier looked great at center, by the way.
Zach Frazier from
West by God, Virginia.
Thank you.
But also with the NFL, there were 21 50+ yard field goals made over the weekend.
I thought it was a hell of a week for kickers.
Yeah.
College and professional. We are collectively stepping our game up at that position. Big time. Like, that's some good stuff there. Pat, Kamala, before we move on, anything?
Nope.
All right, that'll take us to our baseball segment, brought to you by Bobo's Fine Chicken in Virginia Beach. Visit them on Shore Drive near Chicks Beach for some locally sourced, handcrafted chicken and old-style seasonal sides. Open for breakfast, lunch, and dinner Monday through Saturday. There ain't nothing better than Bobo's and baseball. First turn to our Chicago friends, and our boy Shota Imanaga had to have a bunch of Malorts in his coffee last week because
the team was
all hopped up on Malort. But Shota pitched 7 no-hit innings. Then Nate Pearson and Porter Hodge each pitched a perfect in 8th and 9th inning, respectively, as the Cubs no-hit the Pirates on Wednesday. It's the first no-hitter by the Cubs at Wrigley Field since, of course, we all know, Milt Pappas in 1972.
See?
Yeah. It's the first no-hitter ever that was started and finished by 2 rookies, which I thought was kind of wild, just crazy, insignificant baseball stat. But thought that was interesting. Another sweet-ass thing, I don't know if you saw this. This was like the dream. I saw this, and this is what you dream about. 2 outs, bases loaded, 3-2 count in the 9th inning. You're down 3-0. The Tigers' Parker Meadows hit a go-ahead grand slam as Detroit beat San Diego 4-3 on Thursday.
It's what we all dream about, playing in the cul-de-sac.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was like,
me throwing tennis balls to Nick
Game
over
7.
and over again because I can just dart them in there wherever.
Ripping them off
I
of
can
mean
put them
guys'
wherever I
house.
want.
Still got it.
Still got it. And then I
always warm.
Oh, Pat, and then we'd switch, and I'd be like, all right, it's my turn to hit. And Nick
It's like Rick Ankiel trying to pitch.
You couldn't hit the side of a bar, and then he
Throwing the
one-
eephus pitches.
He threw one that I finally reach out and hit, and you go, all right, switch back.
You get the same number of pitches, hit them or don't, motherfucker.
Start ripping them off mean guy's house.
Now you had to turn and hit them off our house. That was the
We put home plate it.
Yep.
Back there.
Moving on to some more, or actually that wasn't a walk-off. The Parker Meadows one wasn't a walk-off, but this is Patrick Bailey of the Giants. He knocked in all 3 runs for San Fran on Thursday, including the walk-off ground rule double in their 3-2 win over Arizona. Some more walk-off stuff for the Mets. May talk a little bit more about the Mets here in a second, but Mark Vientos had 2 home runs, including the walk-off 2-run home run in the Mets' 6-4 win over the Reds on Friday night. The Mets would stretch their win streak to 9 games on Saturday, the day after, before they fell to the Reds on Sunday, snapping that streak. Yankees-wise, Clark Schmidt and Nestor Cortez. Schmidt pitched 4 2/3, and Nestor pitched 4 1/3. They combined for a 4-hit shutout in the Yankees' 2-0 win over the Cubs on Saturday. Kind of interesting that they chose to almost demote Nestor to the bullpen when he has a sub-4 ERA and is played the whole year compared to some of these other guys, but he pitched really well doing so. Next, I got Pavin Smith from
UVA.
From UVA. He had 3 home runs and 8 RBIs in the Diamondbacks' 12-6 win over Houston on Sunday. Pavin Smith entered that game with 4 home runs the entire year. He had a chance to hit for the home run cycle. I don't know if you know that. Home run cycle is you hit a solo shot, 2-run homer, 3-run homer, and a grand slam all in the same game. He knocked out the grand slam, 3-run homer first, grand slam second at bat, and then he had a solo shot in his third at bat. And his fourth at bat, he comes up. He's batting second that inning. So the only way he has a chance to hit a 2-run homer is if the guy in front gets on base. And sure enough, the guy in front of him hits a single. So he came up in his fourth at bat with a chance for the home run cycle, which has never been done before in MLB history. I saw a minor leaguer do it a couple years ago. A softball player in college, he did it a couple years ago, but never a major leaguer. And he had a shot to do it. But came up short. Hector Neris threw him 3 of the most filthy splitters I've ever seen. They moved about 1.5 to 2 feet. He had no shot. Literally like the perfect pitching at bat for him. But I thought that was amazing. I was glued. I was like, I have to stay up and watch this. This is something I may never see.
Yeah, I tell you what, I'm
awesome.
all in with the Diamondbacks. All in. I mean, this is the team that went to the World Series last year.
Mm-hmm.
And they got really hot without Christian Walker and
Corbin Carroll,
Ketel One Martinez.
And Corbin Carroll has
Mayo.
not done anything this year.
No, but that's who basically started carrying them. Is that Corbin Carroll got hot, and then picking up Josh Bell at the trade deadline when Walker got hurt was huge. Jock Peterson has clutch at bats left and right, which is like that guy's still doing work in the show. It's just awesome to see. But with Walker back and Ketel One Martinez back, I mean, this is a dangerous team.
Yes.
Corbin Carroll's hitting. This is a dangerous team. They went to the World Series for a reason last year.
And I would say they got better this year. Right? They picked up Geno Suarez, Jordan Montgomery.
Yes. Yeah, Gino, Eugenio. He's been awesome.
Yeah.
That was a huge pickup. But you know where their owner went to school?
West Virginia.
West by God, Virginia.
Yes, he did. He's donated a shitload of money to West Virginia baseball.
That's why it exists, right?
Love that money.
Pretty much, yeah.
Before we get into anything else, just a couple stat things. Kyle Schwarber, he's heating up again. He's hitting 250 on the year, by the way. Last year, I think he didn't even break 200. He's at 250 for the year. He's got 34 bombs, 94 RBIs, but he has caught fire of late. He's hit 433 with 6 bombs in his last 7 games.
Sheesh.
I believe
He gets on those streaky runs,
Yes.
usually in June.
Yeah,
But, man, when he gets on those streaky runs, he's the best hitter in baseball.
I believe he tied Alfonso Soriano's single-season record for leadoff homers this year, and as part of that streak he's on. It's pretty awesome. Love watching Schwarber go out there. Ohtani, we've talked about him before. He coming into play on Tuesday. He's at 46 bombs and 47 steals. He still has a super realistic shot of getting 50-50. They may stop pitching to him the same way they've stopped pitching to Judge, and Judge has cooled off a little bit. So, I mean, Judge hasn't hit a homer in over a week, which is kind of shocking. But, you know, Ohtani still has that shot. It could very well happen. As it would stand right now, playoff picture, the Yankees would be the number 1 seed in the AL. They would play in the DS. They would play the winner of the Orioles and Royals series, which would be a very compelling series.
How awesome would that series be, by the way?
Those Royals?
Yeah.
Garner
Yes.
versus Bobby Witt.
Yes.
That's how you got to market it, right? I mean,
Absolutely.
any other marketing is a flop.
Yes,
Gunnar
correct.
versus Bobby Witt.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. And then the other side of that in the AL, Cleveland would be the 2 seed. They would face the winner of Houston and Minnesota, which is also interesting. The Carlos Correa Bowl. In the NL side, the Dodgers would be the number 1 seed. I think they own some sort of tiebreak over the Phillies, but they would play the winner of San Diego and Arizona, which that would be an incredible series, Padres, Diamondbacks. And then the aforementioned Fightin' Phils, they would play the winner of Milwaukee and the Mets. As it stands now, the Mets would have the last spot in the playoffs thanks to their streak they've been on.
That's wild.
Wild,
Yeah,
right? A team that
That's a crazy one.
looked lost for the better part of almost a year and a half. They have played their way into the playoff picture. They jumped the Braves, I believe, yesterday. kind of amazing. Any baseball stuff before we move on?
I got one more. My guy, Anthony Santander.
Tony Taters.
His 40th home run. It's the first time since 2016 that an Oriole has hit 40 home runs. And do you know who the last person? I texted it to you guys, but see, I don't
Is
know,
it
Pat,
is it Rusty Trombone?
It is Rusty.
Yeah,
Trumbo.
it's got to be
Mark
Trumbo.
Mark Trumbo was the last one to hit 40 home runs in an Oriole uniform.
That's crazy.
So I feel like my prediction of him leading the AL and RBI, like, it's not going to happen. But I feel like it was, he's had a career year, so I feel pretty good about that prediction. From
You're
the start of the year.
close.
It wasn't that cold of a take. No. So any baseball stuff, Pat Comlo?
Just the Orioles and the Yankees, man. It's a playoff race that, like, neither of them refuses to just either run away with or shy away from. It's just the Orioles lose, the Yankees also lose, right? They've just been sitting at half a game for, like, the better part of, 2 weeks
games.
now. And
40 games.
it's crazy. Yeah. It's absolutely crazy. But the Orioles they're cold right now. I think they have a losing record since All-Star break, and every single one of them except for Mullins and Santander is slumping.
Yeah,
Adley's having a rough go of it. Jackson Holiday's hitting below 200. It's just it's rough right now in Baltimore. But
this is why I don't like the way their team's set up right now for the postseason.
Mm-hmm.
It's too lineup heavy. They've had so many injuries with the pitching staff.
It's
now,
so
if the
bad.
pitching staff was healthy, you'd be like, oh, love this team.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't win with offense in baseball,
especially in the postseason where the pitching is at its best, because that's why those teams are there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's tough right now, but Orioles are in a good game right now. They're winning 5-1 over the Boston Red Sox, while the Yankees are losing to the Royals. So that's nice.
Is it?
Yeah, I think so.
I like it.
I like it.
How about Skeens last night?
Did you see him last night? Oh, that guy's shoving.
Another just another ho hum, 6 innings, 9 punches.
That dude is just shoving.
Does he qualify for stats yet?
It's gotta be at this point, right?
Maybe
he doesn't.
What's the floor?
It moves every.
He still doesn't, which
That's
is
crazy.
Really, he does not qualify for the ERA title because he would be in first. So Chris Sale's pitched in 27 games, right? He's leading the MLB in ERA at 2.38. Paul Skeens has pitched in 20 games. He's at 2.10 ERA.
Number of innings.
Is that what it is?
Yep, it's all number of innings. Because, think about it, there'd be a ton of relievers that have pitched in more than 27 games. Yeah. They don't qualify for it. So it's all about number of innings. I don't know how they decide the number of innings either. It's like some ratio. It's not a set number.
He's got 46 less innings than Sale. 46.
Which, divide that by 6. What do you got, math people?
What is it?
46 divided by 6.
It's a number.
Yeah, some number. 7 point something repeating. So that makes kind of a big difference. It's a 7-game difference, right? That's pitching-wise is a massive portion of a season for a starter, right? But I get what you're saying, boy. It just seems like he's pitched enough. Like if he were a hitter, he'd be qualified.
You have film, right? You got the sample size isn't small. I think that's kind of where I look at it as let's just use some common sense.
But that's just not how it works.
I know.
Stats,
sample size isn't small.
Numbers.
But he's gonna win Rookie of the Year.
Math, science. Okay. So that's gonna do it for our baseball segment, brought to you by Bobo's Fine Chicken in Virginia Beach. Come on into their Shore Drive location near Chicks Beach and grab some chicken, sides, all that great stuff, maybe some beer on your way to the beach or a ball game. Bobo's in baseball. There ain't nothing better. Now we move on to our Mimosa Minute this week, brought to you, as always, by Main & Co., the creators of the Modern Mimosa. Follow them on Instagram at Main_Co. and visit them at mainsip.com to order yours today. Main & Co., championing women's athletics since 2020. I got a couple things here. First off, Caitlin Clark, the pretty incredible Caitlin Clark. She's the 5th WNBA player ever, not just rookie, but ever, with multiple triple doubles in a single season. She had one in the Fever's 93-86 win over the Sparks. She also, in that game, reached 100 threes on the year and technically in her career, which makes her the fastest ever in WNBA history to 100 three-pointers. She's doing so in just 34 games, which is pretty amazing. And the Fever have clinched their first playoff berth since 2016. So safe to say that pick paid off.
Yeah. How important was that elongated All-Star break for her? I feel like she finally got a break because in women's basketball, you go straight from March Madness to the draft to right to the league, like within a month, right?
Yeah, it's a quick turnaround.
Yeah. So for her, I feel like that elongated All-Star break was so massive for her to just get a break, and then she came
Olympic
back on
break.
fire. Yeah, the Olympic break that she wasn't on the team. But yeah, I thought that was just huge for her to come back, and like she looks comfortable now.
Yes,
Right?
like she's caught up to the speed.
Correct. Yeah, and the strength.
Yeah, it's different. Jumping levels is different.
Yeah.
It's rare that rookies at any level, really in any profession, come in and can light it up right away. It just doesn't happen. It takes time for us mortals, but then again, we are not Caitlin Clark. Soccer-wise, Alex Morgan, she announced her retirement. She also revealed that she is pregnant again. It was kind of, sad and, bittersweet is probably the term, to watch her kind of get subbed off and walk off the field in San Diego's game, knowing that that's the last time we're going to see her play for someone who's had such an illustrious, storied, and accomplished career for the U.S. women's national team and the NWSL, and the way that she's helped kind of create that league, essentially, right, to be what it is. So congratulations to her and her family. But again, bittersweet for us fans that we won't get to watch her play anymore. It's always kind of, when people start to retire, it makes you take a step back and be like, man, I remember when she started playing, right? I remember all this stuff. I remember when I first, watched her do this, and it's like, man, and now it's done, right? It's Father Time is undefeated. Now, disease in Father Time, two undefeated things in the world. They never lose.
Disease?
Yes.
Medicine.
When you are teaching
eradication,
when you are teaching history,
your wife a doctor?
When you are teaching history in the world, and we talk about wars and battles and eras and stuff,
doctors,
disease always is the winner in everything, and those things. They always kill the most people. They always have the biggest impact. The plague. I mean, come on.
That has to be Tom Cruise's ending monologue to War of the Worlds that you're quoting. Are you doing a bit?
No, I'm being serious. Disease in war and history is like the biggest winner. It reigns supreme. We just came out of a pandemic, right? Think about that. The absurdity of that.
Came out of.
That doesn't mean it's defeated.
We didn't get wiped out.
A lot of people died, jabroni. That's what I'm saying.
I'm not saying they didn't, but I'm saying people won, disease 0.
That's what you think.
If you look at extinction level events, it's not really disease that's the problem. Geology.
Where are we going? This is so bad.
Geology.
This is so bad.
Well, you can leave, Kamala, if you want.
There's been a dozen extinction level events before the dinosaurs. These things happen.
Science. The more you know.
He's a liar.
Science is a liar sometimes.
I'm dug in, and I'll never change.
They died eating
Mercury.
Have you pored over this data yourself? The facts, as it were.
Do you not believe that you could create a spawn and could evolve some X-Men level mutation?
Dare I say it? A leap of faith.
Go watch the Serial Defense of It's Always Sunny if you don't know.
Oh my god.
The Solheim Cup begins this weekend at Robert Trent Jones Golf Club in Gainesville, Virginia. The Solheim Cup, for those of you who don't know, is the women's equivalent to the Ryder Cup, so it is U.S. versus Europe. Our girl Lauren Coughlin from UVA,
Virginia.
She is on the team, which will be awesome. And this week, our reporter in the field will not be Pat. It will actually be Kamlo, who will be attending the final day of the Solheim Cup, which is pretty.
I will be sitting
cool.
on hole number 3 in a very, very modest romper. A what caught my eye romper.
That doesn't. That's an oxymoron. Romper can't be modest as a man.
On
Okay.
Comlo, it can't.
Wait till you see this moose knuckle.
All right. We apologize to our sponsors and our parents who are watching this.
Love you, Dad.
At least it can't be as bad as when you did the Powder Puff game as
oh, that was great.
The cheerleaders. So that's going to do it for our Mimosa Minute this week, brought to you by Main & Co. Be on the lookout for new releases and order yours today at mainsip.com. Main & Co. championing women's athletics since 2020. That's going to take us to our final segment, maybe painstakingly or gracefully for those of you listening. But our final segment, which is every week our favorites segment. So our favorite segment, what we do is we highlight some category, maybe something that caught our eye, reminded us of this, or this had a theme to it, or we just flat out said, hey, let's do this week. But talking about our favorites, not just who or what we think are the best, but what we enjoy the most as fans. So before we get into it, just a reminder that our favorites each week are brought to you by One Legacy Title and Escrow in Jacksonville, Florida. Visit them at onelegacyflorida.com and follow them at One Legacy Florida on Instagram to see how they can help you with your next house closing. One Legacy Title and Escrow, because your legacy matters. And this week, our category for our favorites was our favorite defensive lineman. Don't know why this popped into my head late Saturday night.
Were you just looking at your closet going, haven't worn the Jared Allen.
Jared Allen, exactly.
That has to be it.
That's it.
I was celebrating after UVA's comeback victory, and for the life of me, I do not know why it popped into my head. There had to have been something.
Yeah, I feel like you texted us that pretty late.
You did.
Oh yes, it was late, and it was in pretty good grammar in English, and I was like, who texts like this? I must have been, having a good time. But it is our favorite defensive lineman. So who would like to go first?
Before we start, I didn't prep for this, so I'm going to split, boys. But...
Irish good bias. Irish Pat McGrory.
You can't come up with a few. We'll go first, Pat. You can't come up with a few after we get through them.
Oh my god, that was so funny.
I'm surprised you just hit the button.
Yeah.
Dude, that's hilarious.
But
Pat,
appreciate you guys.
You're one of one, Pat.
Appreciate you guys having me on here.
Thanks for being here, brother.
Yes,
Good fun, boys.
Go Vols.
Go Vols.
So I guess that puts a wrap on our reporter in the field, Pat McGrory.
Yeah, we got to get him under contract or something. If you're here, you got to be obligated and committed.
So who wants to go first? And I figured Pat would have went first, but
yeah,
I'm not prepared. I'm really not prepared.
Yeah. You know what? I'm gonna really not prepared for this. God, that would be such a good shirt. I'm really not prepared for this. I'm just gonna leave.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm gonna attach the plow to the front of the truck here, and we're just gonna go through this. Number 5, Jared Allen.
Beautiful.
Obviously. Number 4, Julius Peppers.
Good one.
Yes.
Number 3, Dwight Freeney.
That's a good one. Spin move.
Number 2, and I really, really did not want to put him on my list, but he has a sick clothing line at Men's Warehouse. I respect the game. I respect the name. Michael Strahan. The guy's a goat. I mean, he's a mogul, really. If we want to talk moguls, Michael Strahan is a mogul. Football mogul, talk show host mogul, fashion mogul.
Mogul.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see a beverage come out here soon. And then number 1, just everything about him is hilarious, from his on and off field antics to the way he's guest appeared or guest starred or I guess guest appeared in some TV shows that I've watched to his philanthropic work off the field. It's got to be J.J. Watt.
Yep.
It's got to be J.J. Watt.
Yeah.
No
agree.
one else. I mean, look at just the culmination of that dude in his career and what he's done with his time and his money and his fame to helping out. What was it? A hurricane that went through there or something? Yeah, the hurricane relief efforts that he did.
Gosh, what was that one? Harvey?
I think so. Yeah, Hurricane Harvey. I mean, everything that this guy does, gold. Seeing him in the league, gold.
I've been rewatching the league.
The way the Patriots had to prepare to play the Texans in the playoffs by having their defensive linemen strap tennis rackets to the ends of their arms to simulate the dude's reach for Twom to throw over, gold. I mean, it's got to be J.J. Watt.
I agree. That's very good. I love it. Number 5, Warren Sapp. I think he was the first one from my childhood where I was like stood out as like, this guy's just a game wrecker. Everything he does. Love Warren Sapp. Number 4 with you, Kamlo, Julius Peppers. UNC basketball great, Julius Peppers. There's something about like when you like put like Carolina Panthers, like I just always see Julius Peppers. The visor, everything.
Yeah.
Just one.
Really? You don't see Rodney Peete? Or Kerry Collins or Steve Berline?
Sir Purr. See Sir Purr, the mascot. Number 3, Idaho great, Jared Allen.
Idaho State.
Idaho State great, Jared Allen. Idaho State.
Go.
What is Idaho State's mascot? I thought he was
it's the Tigers. Idaho's the Vandals. Remember, they were missing the Visigoths last week. That's why they couldn't beat Oregon.
Yeah.
You guys don't get that joke, do you? No.
Number 2, one of the biggest men to ever play the position, New England Patriot great, Vince Wilfork.
Good one.
I mean, ultimate run stopper, right? I mean, how happy was Bill Belichick to have Vince Wilfork on his defense? And number 1, I mean, my favorite, maybe defensive player ever, J.J. Watt.
J.J. Watt.
I just remember him. I remember watching that Wisconsin-Ohio State game with you, Nick, at UVA, your first year there.
Well, I don't.
Yeah, I know you don't. But watching J.J. Watt single-handedly take out Ohio State at the end of that game. I think he had like three or 4 sacks like on the last drive. It was insane. But J.J. Watt, unblockable. There's so many times when he was coming to the league, the offensive line were he's unblockable. It's impossible. He was always my favorite, and I've rewatched the league and his episodes. Yeah, just
we don't
he
those diva wide receivers. Gone. You have a problem with the Houston D?
You know what this team needs? A kicker. Here's Blair Walsh.
The Blair Kick Project. That's a good one.
Yep,
good
I
list.
love it. So I'm going to start. My honorable mention is Merlin Olsen. I'm friends with Merlin Olsen. He comes over on occasion. I also have many leather-bound books, and my apartment smells of rich mahogany. But Merlin Olsen, I believe, yes, here's where he ranks. I believe he made 14 or 15 straight Pro Bowls. The only other people to match his number are Tony Gonzalez and Peyton Manning. The only person to have more Pro Bowls than Merlin Olsen is Tom Brady.
Wow.
Yeah. So to put that into perspective, he also went on to have act in a lot of stuff after he was done playing. That's a big reason why that joke in Anchorman comes into it, because Merlin played for the LA Rams. But yeah, Merlin Olsen was a problem, as the kids like to say. Number 5, I have mine split for UVA. The two Chris's, Chris Long and Chris Canty. Chris Canty, if you don't know who he is, when they used to do the introductions on Sunday Night Football, and everyone gave back when they gave their college, not some whatever stupid ass high school or weird codified term that they use to say something dumb. When they used to give their college, Chris Canty would always go wahoo wah, and no one knew what it was. But as a who, that's the thing. You say wahoo wah. They're the wahoos, the who's. And I always thought that was really cool. And he was actually a very productive defensive tackle. Pretty much every team he played on won. It just felt like that. Every team he was on was successful. I believe got a Super Bowl late in his career with the Ravens, which was cool.
Nice.
But speaking of Super Bowls, Chris Long, son of the great Howie Long, he won. He was second overall pick with the Rams. He had a really great career. He won back-to-back Super Bowls with two different teams, which is really rare. He won 1 year with the Patriots, then went to the Eagles and was on the Eagles when they beat the Patriots in that Super Bowl. So won 2 Super Bowls back-to-back with 2 different teams. It's a really wild thing to do.
Is he the highest pick in UVA history?
Might be. I don't know. I don't really. Nothing comes to mind. As many great players as they had in the past. Again, what I was saying earlier in the show, or before the show at least, they success-wise weren't that good before George Welsh took over in like the 80s and 90s. So I am probably going to say, yeah, he's probably the highest pick. Number 2, he can only be higher. Number 1, world's greatest dad. But Chris Long, he's awesome. Love him and Canty. It's no shock to me that they've both been able, when they're done playing, to go on to have good careers media wise and doing the things that they're doing, because they're that smart. That's part of what made them such great players. Number 4, DeMarcus Ware. Love me some DeMarcus Ware, especially as a Cowboys fan. You talk about game wreckers. He could change a game on a dime, and did a lot of times, and bailed out a lot of teams, a lot of suspect Dallas defenses. He bailed them out, but he was awesome. Number 3, Warren Sapp, the ultimate problem. He talked about, like you said, game wrecker, game changer. That's what he was. So fun to watch. Arguably the most dominant true defensive tackle ever. And again, that factors in Aaron Donald and your J.J. Watts. But Warren Sapp was phenomenal. He made it change the game, the way we look at who you put at the defensive line and how you play them and what type of athlete you look for. Number 2 for me, and this pained me. This took a lot of thinking, but number 2, I had to go with J.J. Watt, which is interesting because if you were to have me rank like top defenders ever, I probably put J.J. Watt at number 1. But when just favorite defensive ends, he wasn't the first person I thought of. Now, obviously, I have a J.J. Watt jersey. I've loved J.J. Watt for years. Like you said, being a Wisconsin fan, watching him develop, watching him just destroy things single-handedly, be able to play every position on the defensive line, which is that's rare. Like, he is the most versatile defensive lineman ever. You could put him in any position, anytime. He would be a 99 overall in Madden. He would dominate. He was unblockable. He was able to do so many different things, so versatile, and one of the best defenders, if not the best defender ever. But my number 1 favorite defensive lineman is Jared Allen, whose beautiful purple Vikings jersey I am sporting tonight on the show.
It is a nice jersey.
He was the first name I thought of, right? And I went back to this. I was like, you know what? The first answer is always the right answer, right? You take tests, you waffle back and forth on it, but he was the first person that came to mind. The first person I wrote down, I was like, he's my favorite. He was so fun to watch. He was unorthodox. He was a true cowboy. It's what he is. He's a cowboy out there. The mullet, the stash. Like, I just remember the first time I figured out who he was when he was on the Chiefs. A lot of people forget he started his career on the Chiefs. And he single-handedly beat Washington on a Chiefs teams that weren't any good. He had like 4 sacks, like 2 fumbles forced, recovered stuff. Like, every play he pressured them, and he was a true problem. And I remember I was like amazed. I was like, what? And then starting to hear his story more. A guy like Idaho State, not recruited, no one knows who he is. He went to the combine, couldn't even bench press the 225 because he had never had access to weights and all this stuff. But yet he was that good of a football player. He's not getting drafted high, right? I don't even know if he was drafted at all. But to have the career he had, to do what he did, coming from that, it just shows.
It's a 4th rounder.
To me, it shows some of the things that are beautiful about football. Guys like him, guys like your Austin Ecklers, who you look at them and you go, well, that guy's nothing. That guy's not a football player. But when you get out on the field, none of that crap matters, right? Yes, you need to be strong and fast on some level, but you also have to be good at football. You also have to be tough. There's no test they run at the combine for how tough you are, right? They do the wonder look to see how smart you are, but they don't test like how well you processing the in-game information and reacting physically to something, right? How quickly is your brain firing those signals off to the rest of your body, right? How well you keep your composure, like your balance type of things, right? just knack, instinct. They don't test that because you can't test it, right? And so guys like him who come from nowhere, who are able to succeed at the highest level at such a high rate consistently, someone who really should be in the Hall of Fame at some point, kind of crazy, especially with how quick they get guys in the Hall of Fame, that he hasn't been up there yet, but someone who I just admired the hell out of and thought the world of, and just to me was the example of, hey, in life, you don't have to be the best. You just have to outwork people. And that's why he's my number one defensive lineman. Anything else?
He had a great retirement video,
Yep.
riding off into the sunset. Even though I think sunset was the opposite way, but he was like, he's just literally riding a horse in Idaho.
Yeah.
By Idaho State's mascot, the Bengals.
Bengals. I said Tigers. I was close. That's partial credit. A Bengal is a tiger.
It is a tiger. Yes, it is.
Jabroni. Anything else before we wrap this fun show up?
Nope. Backyard brawl this weekend. Let's go. Let's go, Weers.
I love it. So that's going to do it for our favorite segment, as always, sponsored by One Legacy Title and Escrow. If you're in the Jacksonville area, be sure to use them on your next house closing. Visit them at onelegacyflorida.com to learn more. One Legacy Title and Escrow, because your legacy matters. That's going to do it for us for another edition of What Caught My Eye, or WCME Sports. As always, follow us on our socials, Instagram, Facebook, X, at WCME_sports. Our new episodes, they drop every Wednesday at noon on Spotify and YouTube. And go ahead and visit us at our website at WCMEsports.com. For the boy, Stephen Vesci, for the man, Stephen Comlow, and our reporter in the field who ran off on assignment, Pat McGrory, I am the coach, Nick Vesci. As always, be decent to each other. Have a good one. We'll see you next time. Take care, Guatemala.